Hi, and welcome to volume 2 in our beekeeper series. This tape is designed to go from high summer right through to winter wrap-up. We're going to show you honey harvesting, we're going to show you extracting, we're going to show you looking for and finding, well, looking for varroa. I hope we don't going to find it, looking for varroa, and generally take you right through all the daily jobs that need to be done from, as I said, high summer to winter. So come with me, we're going to go and get started on some work, and we're going to start taking some honey. Okay, so come on down the yard with me. Now, I hear all sorts of weird and wonderful stories about how to take honey from bees, and the methods are legion, and the problems to get into is worth a pantomime. So what I'm going to do is show you two methods which are very, very simple, very easy. The first one is this one. Now this is referred to as a clearer board. They call them crown clearer boards because it goes on the top, I suppose. But it has two openings, and those two openings consist of these porter bee escapes. Now the bee goes in through the top, out through the bottom, so anything where the bees above there clears the bees down through the holes into the hive below, and that happens overnight. So what we're going to do is this box, we went through this hive yesterday, and this box here is full and it wants to come off, and the fastest way of clearing the bees out of that is with a clearer board. So that's what we're going to do. So hang around and we'll show you. It's just a matter of how simple it can be to take that off, give the bees a bit of smoke down through the top here, so that they're not a little, these guys can be a little aggressive. So we're just going to do a little number there, split this box here at the top, and put it off to one side for a minute. God, that's heavy. And then all we do, we don't need to smoke them down, but I don't like them on the tops of the bars here. I'm just going to smoke them down. Now this clearer board goes on the top. So now the hive is just up to this point here. In other words, you've reduced it by one super. Now this then goes on the top, and oh, yeah. Whew. Simple, huh? The bees are going to go down through here overnight, congregate into the nest below. This will be empty, and I'll be able to come down tomorrow morning and take this box off with impunity, probably without any problems at all. I'm going to show you another method which I find is very simple, especially if as in this case, these are frames that we changed a few days ago, and they're not really full again yet, but I've got a couple here at the back, and if you've only got two frames to get out, then there's really no need for clearer boards. And so all you do is take this and go very carefully with it, and here's a nice frame of sealed. Now there's a big point that I should make. One is that these empty caps on the top here, in actual fact there's no honey in them, but I would say don't take frames with more than 10% uncapped. Yeah, because what will happen, this is then green honey, and green honey of course will ferment, so it's not going to do you or your customers any good. So we have to wait until this is all capped over as this is, and then the simple way of doing this, look, is just to gently brush the bees off. Yeah, now if you've got nice gentle hives, this isn't a problem because the bees don't get too upset. But you get an angry hive and you try and do this, and then see what happens. You'll have bees in the air you would not believe. So we'll gently just brush the bees off, and if you have an empty box, as I have over here, which is full in fact of drawn comb, wet, then these are going to go in here. If I can get into them, these are going to go into here and replace these wet ones. And Then these wet ones will go back in the hive to replace the ones we're taking out. Cover them over with a cover cloth, keeps everything nice and dry and clean, and the bees don't get too into robbing mood too easily. And we'll take another one. And you can see the bees come off it fairly readily. They don't object too strenuously. There's no signs of them around my face having a go at me. And generally the bees are doing very nicely. So there's another one. Good stuff. So that one can go in here as well. And we'll take out one more, that's to play safe. And keep them covered, because otherwise you'll set up robbing, and that's not a pretty sight, believe me. Try one more, see what this back one's like. Yeah, that is absolutely no good. Look, it's capped up here and it's capped on the back, but this is still all wet, and that would cause a problem. So what we need to do is to move that one in a little bit, and we'll go one more, see what else we can find. Oh, here's another one. I think maybe this side anyway. Oh yes. So we relieve it off the bees, and then we can take this back and extract just these 3 or 4 frames we've had. Now there's a little bit, but you see they're starting to pull the caps in, so it means that it's almost ready. And now we can take this back and we can extract it. Nice, fairly light honey when you look at the sun through it. Good. So there's another one. Over the years we've tried to explain to people about requeening and why we should requeen, and people tend to take it with a pinch of salt and say, well, I think this guy's just trying to sell us queens. But I'm not. And what I'd like to show you here is 6 hives, and they're all used as drone mother hives for the mating yard, which is over there. Now looking along them, you'll see they're all different heights, and yet in theory they should all be the same height, because then if we had good strong queens of the same age, we'd have hives like those big ones here. See, look, 3 deeps, 3 shallows, and they're full or getting full. So we'll be taking honey off these any day. But these have only got 1 box, 1 shallow on the top, and hardly enough honey in there to worth worrying about. So why? Well, it's very simple. This hive and its sister hive along there had new queens late last year. That one there and the 3rd one along from that end didn't get a new queen because we were looking after our customers and didn't have any surplus ones for ourselves. So this queen went into the winter, and she shouldn't have done. She should have been changed last fall. And the other one down there, number 3, was also in the same situation. Now this little one here and the other little one right on the other end are brand new hives this year. They started off as 3-frame nukes. We started them off in towards the end of June, and here we are, it's very early August, and already they're up on 2 boxes and they're getting full. So you can see the effects of having strong queens are very noticeable. This one here has got 3 deeps on, 3 shallows and 3 deeps, and it's full, and he wants examining and emptying. And same with number 2 down there, that's exactly the same situation. But that one there and this one here haven't produced diddly squat. They're not worth having. They have got new queens in now and the hives are building, but there's going to be no honey off them this year. If we're lucky, we might get that one and a few frames out of it. So there you go. My advice is requeen every 2 years, every 2nd season. So if you've gone through 1 season, this year will be 2nd season, then we change her and do a summer or fall requeening, because it's far more efficient in the long run, and we will show you that later. Okay, so there you go. Simple. Simple, simple, simple. So change your queens. Don't think it's a sales job. It isn't. It's a guaranteed method of getting more honey. People who want to see what a queen cell looks like, and there's one in here which I'd like you to look at. It is an absolutely perfect perfectly positioned supersedure cell. Now supersedure cells are cells which the bees have decided they want to change their queen. We have in fact taken this out of another hive so that we can split it off and let it do its thing, and it's on this frame here, and I'm going to pause for just a second.
Running.
Okay, now here this, if you look, is all brood, and right slap bang in the middle is here a queen cell. Look, see this is the queen cell here. Now this one actually is sealed over, and you can see the bees don't really want to leave it alone. There it is there. It's attached to all this brood. It's a supersedure cell. It's in the middle of the frame, well, almost just an inch low, as against swarm cells which are formed along the bottom edge. And there's only one in the whole hive, and that's that one there. Now these, if you find them, whatever you do, don't squeeze her. Don't want to leave it alone. There it is, one lovely big fat supersedure cell. And as I said before, don't, whatever you do, destroy that, leave it, because that tells you the bees are not happy with the queen that they've got. This is the supersedure cell that we were looking at before, and if you look now, you can actually see where those two bees are on the end there. The queen's actually eating that cap out, and you'll see, I'm hoping we can sit and watch her finally emerge. So I'll switch this off for a minute and wait a few seconds.
There she is.
There she is, she's just come out, look at that. See, there's that virgin queen emerged. Look, she's still quite yellow. Very soft. And her wings will be straight. There she is. How about that? She actually popped out just while we'd paused the camera for a few seconds. Now the bees will get in there, they'll clean that cell right out, and that virgin has a chance of going off and mating and setting up a new hive. And the bees are fussing already, cleaning her up. Quite incredible. Okay, here we have a problem. You'll signify here the newspaper that this was a unite. We united this box on the top. Now this queen that was in this box was suspect. And when I opened up yesterday, in fact we found all sorts of queen cells, which tells me that the queen wasn't accepted. So now we have to go in and make some adjustments very quickly. And so we have got an interesting problem. Got all sorts of bees up in here. Oh, I see. I didn't close that entrance off properly, so of course lots of bees up in the top. Now all we're going to do is pull the top. Now let's see, yeah, already we're starting to fan. They don't like that being queenless, and they're fanning like crazy. So I've got here a queen in my pocket, and we've prepared the end. And we're going to just open a bar up here, just like so, and then we're going to insert this queen in the bars and close it back up again. There we go, and that's all we do. And now we can come back 2 days and have a look, see if they've released her, and if they have, then we can go on a few days later and then come back and look for eggs. Easy job. One of the simple jobs that one is. So there you go. It's getting towards the end of the season as far as the bees are concerned. We've still got honey supers on, but the goldenrod is almost finished. The asters are still to come, so there will be a little bit more honey coming in, which will hopefully fill these up and finish them off, so that we can put the clearer boards on underneath them and get them off the hive. But now is the time when we should be starting to think in terms of our varroa treatments. Now we haven't discussed much about diseases. and but most of you know my views anyway. We don't medicate unless we have to. So one of the things you should be doing is to survey some of the hives to find out how bad or how indifferent the varroa is. And one of the ways of doing it, again, the ways of doing this thing is legion. There's lots and lots of them. The one we tend to fancy is this one. This is a tray, and it has a screen on the top, and this is placed underneath the brood. And the idea is that without being any medication in the hive at all, without putting any apistan in the hive at all, without interfering with the bees in any way, is that the natural drop of varroa off the bees will fall in the tray, and then tomorrow we can come down and pull the tray and have a look and see what the count is. So we're going to slide this tray underneath, and the bees aren't flying very well today because it's quite cold, but we're going to slide this tray underneath the brood, look, and it's going to go in the front of the hive, in the middle, and literally slide. I'm just looking, see if there's any signs of varroa on the lighting board, because sometimes you see the odd one that the bees have chucked out, but I don't see anything at all. So what we're going to do is take this tray, look, and we're going to slide it underneath the brood, right underneath the middle of the hive, and you might need a hive tool just to push it the remainder, and it's got to go back past this so we're in underneath the frames, and that should do us. Now tomorrow we'll come back and we'll pull that tray out, and we'll show you what we find, and it should be interesting. Now here's the tray that we put underneath the brood, and we're just going to remove that mesh, and this is the effect you get. And if you look at this very carefully, actually you can see lines across that coincide with the actual frames. Now this yellowing around here is in fact vegetable oil, and that was done deliberately so that we didn't want the varroa crawling off and crawling back into the hive again. And so now we're going to switch the camera off. We're going to come in very, very close, and we're going to see if we can't show you these individual varroas to show you how big they are. There you go, look, there's one and there's another one, and if you look really carefully you can actually see the legs on that one, and that's varroa. Now you leave it in the hive and don't touch it and do anything with it, and you're going to have a dead hive, because these escalate and just become infested and the hive dies. Okay, just to put this into full perspective, this is the tray, as I said, that came out, and you can see there's all bits of sort of pollen bits and stuff that's floating around. This is not bad compared to some, but the point I'm trying to make here is that this came out of a hive which was a drone mother, and that hive was deliberately set to make a lot of extra drones, and the amount of varroa is only about 11. We counted up very carefully, checked them all out. Now this is a natural drop, and out of interest what we'll do is another apistan drop. We'll put 2 apistan strips in, put this tray underneath, and then you can have another look another day. All throughout these tapes we've been talking in terms of hive treatments, how to get more bees, how to make more honey, and the time's come when we should show you what to do with all those boxes of honey that you're going to get off. And with like everything else in beekeeping, there are a dozen different ways of doing the same thing. So we thought what we'd do is show you our methods, and if you want to adjust them, obviously you can go ahead and do so. First of all, you need to remember that honey is a food product, and it really needs to be handled with care. I have seen too many beekeepers in the past who, because honey bugs, bacteria don't grow in honey, they think they can mistreat it and it doesn't do any damage. Well, it probably doesn't, but that's beside the point. And I think we should handle it with care and treat it like a proper food product. So, now having said that, let's have a look at some frames that have come off the hive, and we'll see if we can show you what to do. Now, in volume 1 of this, we were talking about comb honey. And we said at the time that it would be necessary to mark the frames of comb honey so that you could recognize them again when you came to get them out the hive. Now this is not really an easy thing to do, but I'll struggle. Here we have two frames. Which one's the comb honey? Yeah, they look so identical. Yeah, and now if you start trying to put a cutter through them, you'll find that the wires get in the way and we get in a real mess. And so, as I said in volume 1, whatever you do, mark them. And look, this is what we've done. This one here on this hand has got CC, cut comb, so that we know when we pull it out the hive like we've done here, that we have got this one without any wires and this one with wires. And so we can't extract this one. Well, you probably could, but I think you're getting a real mess, because if you remember, the cut comb foundation is very, very thin. So there you go. Now I'm going to put this on hold, come back in a few minutes and we'll show you we're going to uncap this one and we're going to show you what happens. The frame. Now, one of the things I would recommend is this. You need a bar of some sort with, look, a nail sticking up. Otherwise this thing is going to float around all over the place. And what you do is you literally just jam it in and it's not going to go anywhere. So it makes life a lot easier when you come to start chopping it with a knife. Now, there's a number of different tools. One is you can have a knife like this. This is referred to as a Bingham. And it's flat on this edge and well ground on this. And the idea is, of course, you start at the bottom, and you'll notice it's just about the right width to go right across the frame. And the idea is to get that off in one piece, if possible. If you do it, you can write and tell me, because you'll be the only one I know who can do it. The idea is you tip the frame out, and as you start at the bottom, the wax will fall away from you. Because, and here's what to remember, between the honey and the caps there is an air gap. Tiny, tiny air gap, and if you get into that air gap, then you don't pull off and don't stick honey on the back of here. Now, if you do, then the best thing you can do with this is to have a jug of really hot water and you stand the knife in it. And then when you want to work it, you wipe the knife on the board, go ahead and uncap, and then just use the board as an uncapping, as a cleaner. And you take that side off, turn this frame over, and stick it on there again, and now you go the other side. And now that's one tool, that's a knife. There is a capping scratcher, they call them, and they're like tiny, tiny teeth, and you literally pull it all off. Now, I don't tend to favour that, I'll be honest. We do sell them, but I don't favour it because it creates an awful lot of loose bits of particles of wax which you've got to then filter out again. Then of course you get into the electric knives, and this is the one that I like. This is a very special one, and you'll notice, see, when you start, it goes through just underneath the cappings and pulls them off. We wipe them on the board, and the idea is we're going to go all the way through, taking these off. Now it takes a few minutes, you know, and one of the problems with beekeepers, everybody's got to do things in a hurry, and sometimes there's a nice relaxing little job here, taking all these off and keeping them as clean as you possibly can. And don't forget, whatever you take off the frame here goes in here, ends up straining through there into the bottom. That stuff we don't eat, we feed it back to the bees. So if you're a bit sloppy here taking these off, then that excess honey you get with it is going to go back to the bees, which might be a silly way of doing business. It is called recycling, but it's better if I can have the good stuff. So we'll do the other side, and you can see it works very quickly. If you've got a nice electric knife, you sort of get underneath and ease them off. Don't try and be in a hurry. So having done this, now we've got to get it out of here. One of the things you should note is that the DE hive, we run it with drone foundation, and the idea of drone foundation is that it will extract much faster. And you can see it produces nice clean cappings, lots of holes, some bigger holes, which of course when you put it in the extractor throws the honey out much faster. So there we go. Now Bear with me, come back in a moment. I'm going to show you now what an extractor is all about. I'm going to pop this in there first so it doesn't get, I've got my hands free. Now, an extractor is a rotary device which can be either electric or by hand as a manual. But it has two distinct frame cages. This one is a radial, and you can see the frame fits in this direction. So radial is at right angles to the centerpiece. That's this one. And then the other one is a tangential. Now tangential fits like this, and it has a cage that the frame sits in sideways. Now that can run into a lot of problems, and I get lots of people who keep on buying wax because they blow them out, because they try and extract just one side at very fast rates, and then any honey on this side is blown literally straight through. So what you have to do is to, on a tangential, is to put them in, extract part of this side, take it out, turn it over, and put it back in again, so you now extract this side. So if you do this turnover business, you don't get the blowout. And of course, if you start them off at a reasonable speed, don't go crazy with them, then you'll find that you don't blow them out. And but obviously a radial extractor is the most efficient, but then they're considerably more expensive. So it has to be your choice as to how much. There's no point if you've only got 2 hives in having a big job like this, because these will cost you a lot of money. So my advice is obviously suit your pocketbook. So there you go, that's extractor.
Now we're going to do some cut comb honey. There are some people that do it by just taking a knife and cutting the pieces and hoping that they get the right weight. The way that we like to do it is we use a cut comb cutter. This is an 8-ounce one. It goes down and cuts, and providing the bees have pulled out the frame to the right width, you will get exactly 8 ounces each time. Then we have the spring which pushes the comb into the container so that you don't touch it at all, and you get a perfect looking piece of cut comb honey. When you've got your frames in the hive, take them out as quickly as you possibly can once they're fully capped, so that they stay nice and clean and white, because obviously customers want to see a nice bright cut comb. They don't want to see it all brown and dirty. The next thing to do is to check and see which side of the frame looks the nicest. On this one we have 2 choices because they're both nice and clean, but I'm going to use this one as my top.
Okay, go.
So I don't think there can be anything more simple than this. All we do is take the cutter, lay it across the top, push down, leave it to drain so that you've just cleared the cells that you've broken on the edge. Lift it over into the container, push down, and it's as simple as that. Put on the lid, and there you have a beautiful product which will sell very, very easily. If you want to really finish it off, then put it in the box that tells you've got cut comb honey, and on the box it says, honey is one of the oldest and purest foods known to man. It has been found in beeswax sealed pots in the tombs of the pharaohs, well over 2,000 years old and still perfectly edible.
Now we've talked about creamed honeys, and I thought I might show you our methods. Now we're in a cool basement floor, and we have 3 tubs of honey. This one here is brand new honey that's been nothing added to it at all. Nothing's been touched, it's just been filtered and run into the bucket. And then this one here, which is the second one along, is in fact honey that we started creaming about 2 weeks ago. And you use this, which is a creamer, and we take this, and having added to the first bucket a little bit of that from last year, and I'll show you that in a minute, from last year, goes in. And then what we do is we take this creamer and we go down to the bottom, and you can see, look, it's thickening, it's starting to stiffen, and we go to the bottom and we do this, probably twice a day for a few weeks, and it will then thicken and start to form a very soft granulation. Now the beauty with this stuff is that it doesn't go any harder, and you can keep this in a large container. You can add flavorings to it, and then you can pack small quantities. You don't have to do the whole thing. So let's show you, move along, and we'll show you what happens with if we keep this going long enough. This is a tub of last year's, and you can see, look, it has a softness. You can scoop it. It stays on the, this is a stainless steel trowel specifically bought for this job, and you can leave it, look, it sticks up high, stays on the trowel, doesn't drip. If you want to make it liquid again, you just heat it up. But the idea of this is beautiful, soft, very, very soft, creamy, buttery type of a particular flavor all of its own. So there you go, that's how we literally cream honey. Simple, easy. Finally, what I'd like to show you is what we can do with it. Starting at the front here, we've got honey mustard. Here we've got cinnamon honey butter. Here's two creamed ones with flavors, one's orange and one's lemon. The other point I'd like to show you is the difference in colors. Look, we've got 3 jars here, 4 jars here, all of the same style, slightly different labels, but look at the difference in the colors. And I think this is one of the big selling points, of course, is that some people prefer a mild honey, some people prefer a stronger one. How about this? 2 bears, male and female, sell them as a pair, boys and girls. Which one do you would like, madam, a boy or a girl? And finally, there's the creamed honeys that, the comb honey that we showed you earlier. Set up in one with a box on, make it look pretty, and one without. And isn't that much nicer than seeing it in a scruffy old second-hand margarine tub, which is what some people sell their honey, and then they wonder why they only get 50 cents a pound for it. Now every year I get the same question, what do you do with the cappings? Do you remember we showed you uncapping and we had the drippings from the cappings and what to do with them? Well, we're going to feed them back to the bees, and all we do is take these off, these staples on the top of the inner cover, so that we can put on a feeder. And that feeder is fairly simple, very easy to use. How about this? It's a plastic container. I've actually got a cricket in there. It's a plastic container, like a pan dish, and a bun dish rather, that the girls use for making buns with. And it has an opening through here, and a reservoir with an overcap that fits down and actually clips in place. And the idea is we're going to put this over the inner cover, going to fill it up with sugar, or in this particular case honey. I'm getting away from feeding sugar. I'm not so keen. I think there's something wrong, but I need a little bit more work to find out. So what we're going to do is take this off, and oh, ow, 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 ow. They're not in a good mood this morning. I think it may because it's so cold. So, alright, well, never mind. Now what we have is all the cappings down here in a bucket. And what we're going to do is pour them into the top here, allow the bees to come up, and we'll get the camera and you can see them. Just give me a second. These little buckets with dishwasher fluid, or dishwasher powder, is really ideal for this job, because they have a sealable lid, which is rather nice. And the only problem is getting them off. These guys aren't very happy. I'm going to have to find out why. Usually unusual for my bees. So let's pour this in, and there it goes. Now it's got bits of wax, it's got all sorts of stuff in it, and but the bees love it. Add about 10% water to it, so that they can take it down freely, and we'll show you. Come and have a look. Okay, so here you can see, look, there's bees up here already. They're starting to suck this down. Obviously they'll suck it up, go down and tell their friends, and then give them another 10 minutes or a quarter of an hour. This thing's going to be buzzing with bees, and you can see them already sucking. Their tail units are going like crazy, and they will. The beauty with these, of course, is they don't drown the bees, because they can't push each other into the soup like they do on other feeders.